today. Okay. So let's close this. Sorry about that. Here we go. This is the Mishnah that begins the Perek. Interestingly, the text they have here says erev Pesachim. We are accustomed to the version that says Arvei Pesachim. Okay, so erev Pesachim.
Why are you saying that?
That's the usual text is Arvei Pesachim. If you actually look at that, it's referred to as Perek Arvei Pesachim. Of course, it doesn't even make any sense why you would say, you could just say erev Pesach, right? Erev Pesach, Samuch L'Mincha. But that's the language we have, okay? So, erev Pesachim, Samuch L'Mincha. Okay, on all your erev Pesachs, close to Mincha, Lo yochal adam ad shetechashach. A person should not eat until it gets dark.
Nothing or...
Okay, so those are our questions, right? So the latter part of the Mishnah is actually not our topic right now. It talks about everyone has to recline. I feel it should be earlier. Save and the seder. Everyone should have 4 kosot. We get right into other stuff, but the first line of the Mishnah is all we're interested in for today, and it says you should not eat. So what are our questions? Firstly, about the Mishnah.
Well, if erev Pesach is on Shabbos, what do you do about Shalashudis and other?
All right, so that'll be an application question. Good. Right. What are our interpretation questions that we have?
Well, the first one the Meira said is, what does not eat mean?
So what should a person not eat? Is it anything? Is it everything? Okay. Secondly,
is it mincha ktana, mincha gedola, right?
What is mincha? What is the mincha?
Well, midday is a mincha gedola.
Right? Okay, and then what is samuch lemincha? Right? There's a mincha and then there's a samuch lemincha. Is there a way to quantify or identify exactly what samuch lemincha means? And ad techashach, we could of course get a question about what is considered techashach, but we'll presume that we understand what getting dark means for now. Okay, we'll call that seder kochavim, which then gives you a general sense that the seder should not start until it is dark out. Okay, so
even if we read the Mishnah very, very simply, are we supposed to fast and then you have al shitach and then the seder itself is a whole ritual until you actually get to eat? So
are we to presume
dead hungry people next to the table?
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be, though.
So we're the
dead hungry people.
No,
they have faster seders.
What?
Right? Do they have faster seders, slower seders? And we do know, we do it. The story that we described of the Chachamim who were in Bnei Brak, and it was, and they had to be moved along. It was already morning time when they were still doing Magid. So was that not the norm? Presumably it wasn't the norm. So did anybody else have 20-minute Magids, and so therefore it wasn't a big deal, or was it more? Right? So let's remind ourselves. It says Samach Lamincha lo yochal, which means before Samach Lamincha. Before Samach Lamincha, whenever that is before means, right? The earlier part of the day, you may certainly eat. It's only Samach Lamincha that you should not eat, from Samach Lamincha until Techashach. It's a shorter period of time. In fact, I think it's forbidden to fast on erev Pesach. Well, actually, that's actually.
Oh, that's not true. If you're Bukhar, you have
Bukhar.
Yeah, well, so I don't think we like that.
That's not what you were thinking. I know.
We don't like that fast, but in biblical times, reframe that. This was a Yom Tov. The day of the Hakravat Hakarban was a Yom Tov. So I don't think it was permitted to fast. We should look in the to see whether that was. Then this minhag of Tanis B'chorim came in, and but I don't. Do you know anybody who fasts Tanis B'chorim? Anybody know anybody who opts to fast? I don't know anybody who opts to fast, right? Again, who's going to opt to fast? But I don't think it was even seen as like, an act of extra piety to opt to fast. It was always you found a way out. But okay, maybe I have to clarify that remark. Okay, fine. So let's start with the question about the timing. When is this? So we'll look at the, Rashi doesn't have much to help. He says, Kodem lemincha ma'at. Samoch means Kodem ma'at, okay? A little bit before. But he doesn't tell you what we're talking about lemincha. If you look at the Rashbam has a nice hearty perush on Maseches Pesachim. Rashbam is Rashi's grandson. So Rashbam says, Arvei Pesachim mincha ketana. We're talking about the mincha is the what's called mincha ketana, and that is 2.5 hours in sha'ot zmaniyot, in the halachic hours from sunrise to sunset, 2.5 hours before sunset. So let's just, we always find it easiest if we deal with an equinox 12-hour day, 6 to 6. So mincha ketana would be 4:30. No, 3:30, right? 3:30. So samach mincha ma'at is a chatzi sha'ah. That's a half hour before, not just 2 minutes, but it means a half hour before that, which makes it 3 hours before. If mincha is 2.5 hours before, you add a half hour, it's 3 hours before. Tchilat sha'ah asirit, the beginning of the 10th hour, right? After 9 hours have been completed, so 3 p.m. on an equinox day of erev Pesach. Equinox, right, at the equator. That's non-tamid nishkat b'shmona. So we don't do this right now. That's the basic point. Okay. Samach lahainu chatzi shah kodem b'sof shat shi'it u'chilat sha'ah sirit. That's when you should no longer do the eating. Okay. What are we talking about? Not eating. Let's leave the question open for a moment. I want to read the Gemara first, and then we'll see if we can resolve some of this and the reason why. We start with the Gemara's question, which is, my area Arvei Pesachim. If you know, the Gemara chooses to refer to Arvei Pesachim instead of erev Pesachim. So what is reference? What is significant about erev Pesachs? Afilu Arvei Shabbatot v'yamim tovim nami.
Not quite. I mean, here we have to worry about the taste of the matzah. That the matzah has to be.
You're ahead of yourself. Let's start with the questions, right? We have to presume what the answer might be, but right now we are presuming that this is a general halacha. Even Erev Shabbos and Yom Tov also. The Tanya, as a brisa teaches, Lo yochal adam be'arvei Shabbatot v'yamim tovim min ha-mincha mala. Deishi kanes Shabbat kishehu ta'ava. There was a mitzvah, an obligation not to eat in the late afternoon on Erev Shabbos, in order that you should enter Shabbos kishehu ta'ava, meaning
hungry,
right? Desiring to eat.
With an appetite.
With an appetite, right. Rabbi Yehuda. That is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yossi Omer, ochel v'holech ad shetecha shach.
As a man of my own taste.
You can keep on eating until nightfall. No such obligation exists. Does he? Well, yeah. Okay, fine. So let's stop there for a second and look at that discussion. Is it here? No, not there yet. Let's actually look at the Rambam. I realized I organized it this way. Rambam Shabbos. Asur, this is Rambam Hilchos Shabbos, Parak Lamed, Halacha Daled. Asur likiboa seuda umish Shabbat mipnei kvod haShabbat. It is forbidden to establish a meal and feasting on Erev Shabbos because of kvod Shabbos. Interesting, by the way, the Rambam says when is this?
How early again?
He doesn't say when.
He also doesn't say not to eat. Just don't stuff yourself.
Correct. He says don't make a su'uda. And this.
So what about the customs of actually getting married and having them, all the celebration on Friday?
So Meir says that's actually good to reference that. So the custom was to get married on Friday, and then have your Shabbos dinner be the Suda of the wedding.
Yes.
And that was because
But now they're doing it at whole weddings on Fridays.
You're right, but that custom was the result of extreme poverty.
Mm-hmm.
When people mamish couldn't afford 2 large meals in the course of a week. Nebuch, can you imagine that? And so you didn't want you, so they said, well, just have Suda Shabbos, and that'll be the wedding meal, and that's how they did it. A famous story where the Ramah was involved in a wedding that was taking place out of Shabbos, and then there was a whole to-do. There was a back and forth. The bride had second thoughts about this and uncertain, and they were this whatever it was. The wedding did not start until Shabbos, and the Ramah did the wedding on Shabbos. And he felt because if I don't do the wedding on Shabbos, the wedding won't happen. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe the chassan had called, whoever had called feet it was, but he made a determination. I better do this wedding because otherwise the wedding won't happen, and they'll never be married to each other. And he took a tremendous amount of heat, and I don't know whether he was driven out of town for that. I mean, he was driven out of town for 1 or 2 things, but he was like, how you can't get married on Shabbos. Right, so so he made this pastoral halachic decision, and he's not a slouch, so he figured out some heter to do this because of the fear that they would mamish, she would be forever not unmarried. So he did the wedding. But that so anyway, so the erev Shabbos simcha that leads into a suda. But you're right. I was in Israel at a hotel at the little house in Baca. That's where I stayed, little house in Baca, and I was getting ready for Shabbos. And I see that in the restaurant downstairs, there's still, an hour before Shabbos, and they're still having a bar mitzvah, whatever it was, and and eating. And I'm saying, like, I don't understand this. What about the Rambam? What about the Rambam? And I think it's a shaila. So what do we do? This past last week, this was a shaila. Why?
Purim.
Because you have a chiyuv of Suda for Purim and an Isser Suda because of Erev Shabbos. So what do you do? So those who did, you say you should, as a Gemara here we'll discuss, but we're not going to spend our time in that, about starting the meal Erev Shabbos and continuing to Shabbos. And that's one way to do it. And other ways to try to do it mamish early so that you don't take away Kvod Shabbos. So what is it about Kvod Shabbos though? The Rambam is not clear. Is it about that you want to be hungry, or is it something else? You can make another argument. What's the other argument?
You're not observing Shabbos according to the full enjoyment of Shabbos, the meal and
right. So that's part again. So you're full already. But how is it? Let's say you're. I'm going back to our side. You're a wedding singer, right? You're a wedding singer. You go to 4 simchas a week. So I don't know. Weddings don't seem exciting to you anymore. Even if you're invited as a guest, you kind of okay. Oh, yeah, I don't want to go. So if you have a Suda Erev Shabbos, so you've diminished the excitement of Suda on Shabbos.
I'm also concerned about being Machal Shabbos, that you don't finish on time. You don't have people being, if everybody lives in the same shtetl and what you do is you go back to your house, that's one thing. But if you have to travel.
People making simchas, right. People making simchas is a bad thing. Let's put it this way: the Rabbanut, which basically makes Yom Ha'atzmaut always on Tuesday because they're afraid of anything anywhere near Shabbos because of Chilul Shabbos to celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut. They should have come out with a prohibition against making these simchas on erev Shabbos. Okay, so the Rambam though says Miknei Kvod Shabbos. So is it because you shouldn't be full? That's where I think Arnie was taking us, right? And the Gemara seemed to take us. We'll see. You are allowed to eat. So you're allowed to eat, but you really should, not, because of Kvod Shabbos, not have a Suda. You should enter Shabbos with a desire to eat, not being stuffed. Right. So it's an interesting thing. Like I saw a sit-down meal, no. Noshing, yes. Now the danger of noshing is
You fill up.
That the people, there are some people who nash a whole meal before you know it. They nash a whole meal. So would that be would that bring you to the same concern? So it wouldn't be Kvoda Shabbos that you set a Suda that somehow competes, but it is mitaveh. You're not going to have the same desire. Okay, so that is the halacha the Rambam codifies based on that brisa that the Gemara here has brought up. So let's see. So okay, so you always have an obligation not to eat. So except for Rabbi Yossi, Amar Huna lo tzricha Rabbi Yossi, the Omer ochel b'holei chachetechashach. So this first answer is that this Mishnah is only being taught according to the Shita of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is the one who says erev Shabbos you're not allowed to. I mean, you are allowed to, and so therefore the Mishnah has to say, but erev Pesach you're not allowed to, because Rabbi Yossi generally says okay. Hani mili ba'arvei Shabbos v'yom tovim. You should know Rabbi Yossi only says that for Yom Tovim and erev Shabbos that you shouldn't eat erev Shabbos. Oh, but erev Pesach mishum chiyuv d'matzah modeh. But he agrees that erev Pesach you may not. And now we add this phrase, mishum chiyuva de matzah. This is, Bernie, I think what you were getting at, right?
Yeah.
Because of the obligation of matzah, he agrees.
So what about the minhag? And I assume it's a minhag to actually have a pretty big erev Pesach lunch.
So the presumption is that your belly is going to be minimally satisfied by having a lunch, and then you still be able to have appreciation of the chiyuv the matzah. And so apparently samach lamincha is where they presume your belly is not going to be able to rebound. Samach lamincha.
If you give yourself 4 hours after mincha, after your pre-suda, your lunch, then you might have the ability to enjoy the matzah.
Right. And if figure it this way, you still have 4 hours this way also, because it's 3 hours until it gets dark, and then it's probably an hour before you eat your matzah. So you have 4 hours there too, right?
Right.
Let's look at the Rashba. Mishum d'chiyuv the matzah shelo tehei ne'achelet al hasova. The matzah shouldn't be eaten al hasova. What does that mean?
You shouldn't eat the matzah when you're full.
Yeah. And I think he used that phrase because that is how you eat the Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach is eaten al hasova. Korban Pesach was considered to be the latter part of your Su'uda and not the Su'uda itself. So, but the matzah shouldn't, right? And you eat matzah with the Korban Pesach, true. And how do we then show now at the Seder, when do we do that?
Or at the beginning of the meal, but you have the kalpat first.
For this.
Karach matzah and maror.
That's also probably not the best, but what is most accurately the replacement of the Korban Pesach at the Seder?
Zlah. No.
The Seder plate.
The zlah. No.
Oh, so you're all over it, but in the end, the afikomen. Okay, the afikomen is a Korban Pesach.
Oh,
so
that's all the way at the end, then. But you have to eat it
all the way at the
midnight.
end. You finish your
but before midnight.
Well, they do that on purpose. You don't walk away. That's just like that's psychology.
They give you waiting for your gift. Yeah.
But I wait for the gift.
Say no. Pesach. Rabbis knew that if you didn't say it was at the end, then you just leave early.
So the Korban Pesach was eaten al hasova. It was eaten when you already relatively full from your meal, and so the matzah of the afikomen, which is the replacement of the Korban Pesach, is eaten al hasova. But the mitzvah matzah that's eaten separately, we can find a separate mitzvah of matzah at the beginning of this of the meal is dafka not al hasova. But chiyuv de matzah la rishon chova, and there is a standing mitzvah of eating matzah on the first night. Dichtiv ba'erev tochlu matzot. That's a bifurcated verse, a part of the pasuk, that you shall eat matzot on the evening, separate and distinct from the mitzvah to eat it with the Korban Pesach, which is what Bernie referred to, the korech, which was to try to imitate the Korban Pesach. So, is there a mitzvah to eat matzah the rest of Pesach?
Is there
Is it a mitzvah to eat matzah when?
The rest of Pesach.
No.
No.
Well,
Just
it's
not
not a chiyuv.
bread.
Correct.
No.
There's no chiyuv on it.
There's no chiyuv. There's only an isser. An isser.
Mm-hmm.
Right? An
And
isser
chametz.
to eat chametz, but there's no mitzvah to eat matzah. And so therefore, you'll note, so we don't make a bracha of al achilas matzah except at the Seder.
Correct.
When the mitzvah existed. Otherwise, we just make hamotzi. Okay?
Right.
So, so here we have a specific. So whereas erev Shabbos and Yom our concern is kvod Shabbos, our concern is oneg Shabbos, and apparently we can't delve too far into it. But Yossi didn't seem to worry too much about eating in advance being a gam in kvod and oneg Shabbos. No. You're going to have a bad Shabbos. You just might not be, having a giant Suda. So he says, it's a big deal. So you don't have a giant Suda. You'll have a small Suda. Okay. I'm guessing he doesn't seem to worry too much about that. You can sit down at your meal. Yes. So you'll have a little bit. You have a can of tuna. You make a most can of tuna. Make it look nice. You won't eat it out of the can. You'll eat it and put it on the plate, right? So maybe he'd be fine with that. But since you must be able to be hungering for matzah, because the mitzvah, we say, so why is that? Why do you have to hunger for it?
Well, so
yeah. Right, but hunger and filled are opposites. Who says you have to start off by being?
It's in the Gemara. It's in the Torah.
Yes, correct. So are we worried? So the narrow read would be: we are worried that if you fill up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, what will happen? God forbid, right? What will happen?
You won't be hungry.
You won't want to eat the matzah.
Not just you won't be hungry, but Meira say that?
You won't want to eat it.
Not only that, you won't.
You won't eat it.
You won't eat it. You say, I can't.
I'm full.
Give me a little teeny. I know, Rabbi, you say I have to eat a half a matzah right now, but please just give me a little corner of a matzah and that'll be good for me, right? So,
well, there is a shiur that you need to eat.
There's a shiur.
I know.
And so there's an isser to eat achila gasa. There's an isser to eat as a glutton, okay? And there's an isser to make yourself sick while you're eating. So we're gonna either run up against an isser or we're gonna run up against actually you're physically saying, I'm sorry, I can't eat it. Next year, and we'll say, I told you not to eat in the afternoon, you wouldn't be full. He said, I know. So therefore we say not just I told you, but it's forbidden. Physically can fulfill the mitzvah. Now the second thing is that is there another level here, which is not just you should be physically able to do it, but you should actually want to eat it, as Meira says, that you want to do the mitzvah, that you are hungry for it, and it's because you want to show mitzvahs are. I'm excited for this.
It's also a hidur mitzvah.
A hidur to what's the hidur? Go ahead.
To enjoy the matzah,
right? Because
you're not only just to fulfill the obligation, but to enjoy it.
Yeah, you don't want mitzvahs to be like feel like a tircha or feel like a bezuyos. I don't know, bezuyos alecha. We don't want mitzvahs to be associated with something which is negative. So
you're forced to it.
That create the context in which you can do this mitzvah excitedly. So let's talk about another piece here. Is so the chiyuv of the matzah, you have to physically be able to do it. But if it's also about the ta'ava of matzah, so what else might we consider saying about helping to ensure that you have a ta'ava for matzah more broadly?
Matzah should be made better tasting.
We need better matzah. Okay.
Especially
not the cardboard kind.
Yeah, right. So it's like
I hate it. I only do the mitzvah to make the bracha and the shia. That's it.
Right.
I never eat on Pesach except.
So firstly, people have digestive issues. Matzah is a horror, right? So you need whatever. So my friend makes matzah. He comes back from shul. He has a matzah oven in his house. and he makes matzah, which is the real mitzvah of matzah's mitzvah, as they refer to them, that are made when chametz is already usher, and so he makes them fresh, and so they're hot matzahs. And then people who make soft matzahs the right way, they make soft matzahs.
Soft matzahs.
Right. There is definitely in non-Ashkenaz circles the practice to make soft matzahs, and if you make them well, they can apparently be very tasty. So fine. So we should try to make a way to make them tasty. How else would you ensure that matzah is desirable to you? So let's go back. Day 5 of Pesach. So some people, matzah and butter, you can eat it forever, right? I'm one of those matzah and butter guys.
Well, egg matzah.
Egg matzah. So I know that I'm sure on the we can do a survey. Who's a matzah cream cheese? Who's a matzah butter guy? I'm a matzah butter guy. Fine. So but by day 5 is I don't want to eat matzah anymore. I'm not full. It's enough matzahs already. It's not working for me anymore. So you might want to imagine that we will say that we don't want to allow matzah eating in advance of Pesach.
That's right. From Purim, I don't eat matzah.
Say again?
We don't eat matzah from Purim.
So such a minhag is quoted in the Mishnah and elsewhere, not to eat matzah for a whole month before Pesach. To create an excitement, to create a uniqueness, all of that's right. I think emerges from this sentiment in the Gemara. It's not a halacha, but it's a sentiment, and seemingly that's the chiyuv of the matzah. And so it's not simply to be able to physically do it, but that you should be able to approach it with some excitement and desire. So if you look at the Rashbam earlier, he says, "Lo yochal adam kadei sheyochal matzah shel mitzvah te'avon." Mishum dur mitzvah. So right, Bernie uses the phrase hidur mitzvah and eat it te'avon. So you should be able to eat the matzah with with a special appetite for it. That's part of the hidur mitzvah. Meira and others who take your opon. So te'avon and ta'ava are spelled differently.
Mm-hmm. Because ta'ava is not only for food. It's general desire. It's general desire,
as in the pasuk, right? Well, that was about food, but the Eitz Hadat was right. Ta'avahu einayim. But te'avon, you're saying, is this a specifically related word? But it's appetite. It's a different word. Okay, okay. So the Gemara was back and forth on this, and so they say, wait a second. You can even say, Rabbi Yehuda. This Mishnah could even be important for Rabbi Yehuda. You'll say, who needs it? You already made the point about erev Shabbos and erev Pesach and erev Yontif. So what's new? I feel like generally in those on erev Shabbos and Yontif, we have a rule it's minha mincha and forward that it is asur. Samach mincha shari, but close to mincha is allowed. Erev Pesach, I feel samach mincha nami asur.
So did we decide what, or did I miss what samuch lemincha means?
So the Rashbam says samuch lemincha means a half hour before.
Half hour, okay, right, yes, I got it.
So we add a half hour to the prohibition for erev Pesach.
Right.
Erev Shabbos samuch lemincha shari. Wow, are you sure about that? Tanya called lo yochal adam erev Shabbos v'min tovim b'teisha sha'od l'mala. He says you shouldn't eat from the 9th hour, the end of the 9th hour, I think it means, and upwards. So you should enter Shabbos with a desire. Now you have it. The Rambam is more clarified here with a desire. Dear Yehuda. So there it says the 9th hour, not the 9th and a half hour.
Well, the 9th and a half hour is mincha gdola.
Is mincha ketana. So you see that basically he makes that rule as samach lemincha for everything. And so back and forth. I'm going to have to do with the rest of this here. Okay. See over here. Amar Yehuda halacha Yehuda be'erev Pesach, halacha Yosi be'erev Shabbos. This you should know. Okay. The halacha is like Yehuda erev Pesach. And Rabbi Yossi be'erev Shabbos, that means back and forth. What does Rabbi Yossi think? Okay, we should make it clear. Erev HaPesach, a halacha exists you may not eat. erev Shabbos, there is no halacha that you may not eat. So that's why the Rambam couches it. I think the way he does, you can't be koveya suuda, but you may eat. Okay, and even that is not clear what exactly means by koveya suuda. So let's go back to our topic here about what it is you can't eat. When we say samach mincha lo yochal adam, what is lo yochal adam? So take a look at the Tosfos here. By the way, the Tosfos talks about erev Pesachim and Arvei back and forth. Okay, you'll see how he plays with that. So says Tosfos. You know what? Do I want to do this now? I don't want to do this. Tosfos. We're going to look at this next week. I want to look at this other Gemara in Pesachim to talk about the parallels. That this discussion about what happens erev Pesach, special rules, is also another Gemara at the beginning of Makom Shenahagu, the same type of back and forth. Makom Shenahagu la'asot melacha va'arvei Pesachim ad chatzot osim. Places where they had the minhag to do melacha on erev Pesach up to chatzot, then you may continue to do so. Makom Shenahagu shelo la'asot einosin. And means also other people can't do. This is where a big discussion has to do with, right? Do you follow the minhag where you're from, or follow the minhag where you find yourself? Okay, it's a critical Gemara actually. But for now, you should just know such a minhag existed in some communities not to do malacha erev Pesach in the morning, and some places were some places they did, and some places shelo la'asot einos, and you shouldn't do it. Okay, now right? If you go to a place where they do it, and from a place where they do it to a place where they don't do it, right? You had to be machmir in both directions. Now the Gemara says, "My area Arvei Pesachim." The same type of discussion we have here. Why have a special discussion about Arvei Pesachim? Afili Arvei Shabbatot Yamim Tovim Nami. Even erev Shabbos and erev Yantav also. The Tanya. This everybody's going to hurt. Haosem melacha ba'arvei Shabbatot Yamim Tovim min hamincha lamala eino ro'eh siman bracha la'olam. Do malacha erev Shabbos and Yantav from mincha katana forward, 9.5 hours a day forward. You will not see a siman bracha forever. That's pretty.
Shock it to you.
Yeah. By the way, it seems to me that when the Chachamim use such language, I think it means is a language of their strength or language of their limitations.
Weakness.
Go ahead. Tell me why.
Because they try to keep everybody in line. And if they don't, this is their last best chance to keep everybody in line. So we're going to tell you, you better do this, otherwise you're damned forever.
Okay. I was taking it a little differently, which is I think they felt they could not mouth an isser. I can't point to a specific isser, but I really don't want you to do it. Say that we really don't want you to do this. Right. And so therefore we use this other stuff, which is scarier, right? Not simply it's rabbinically usser. It could have been rabbinically usser, but I don't think they were ready to do so. And so they say you're not going to see them in bracha forever. Now, but the Gemara is willing to translate it anyway to an isser. Hasam min ha-mincha malahu da usser. So thereby talking about malacha, the malacha is forbidden, usser he is, right? Min ha-mincha lamala. From mincha 9.5 hours forward. Samach la-mincha lo. But close to mincha, they didn't forbid. Hacha mechatzot. Here, the prohibition is much earlier, and that's the chiddush of this Mishnah is mamish from chatzot. Inami, or we'll explain hasam siman brachu de l'chazi, right? Aval shemutu l'mishamtina le. There, when it comes to erev Shabbos and Yantav, it's only that you don't have a siman bracha, but we don't shamute lo mishamtina le, which means what? We don't put you under the ban basically and punish you. Hacha shamute nami mishamtina le. And here we actually Gufa. Now we discuss this issue a little bit. Whoever does malacha in the afternoon, erev Shabbos, late afternoon, Motzei Shabbos, interestingly, so that's fascinating how it keeps on expanding out, but dealing with Nidnud Aveira. So I understand Motzei Shabbos. If you do it right after Motzei Shabbos, we're afraid that people are going to end up bleeding into doing malacha in a forbidden time. Okay, but it's not clear. Hold on a second, Rashi. Or Remez Aveira. So that's what Rashi says over there. Hold on. So this is a very fascinating discussion. So what do we mean by malacha?
49 Shavot Melacha, no?
I don't think it's not the prohibited malacha for Shabbat. I think it means like strenuous work, doesn't it?
It seems that we're not talking about actual malacha. We know that
We're not talking about the lamed tes malachos.
Right.
I don't think so. We're talking about working, going about your workaday stuff that you would be doing. And erev Pesach, I mentioned it before. Erev Pesach was a Yom Tov. It was meant to be treated as a Yom Tov, and because you could bring the carbon Pesach in the afternoon, you shouldn't be doing malacha in the afternoon. You shouldn't be working in the afternoon. It's already a Yom Tov. In the morning, technically, right? There is no, you don't bring the carbon Pesach in the morning. So in principle, you should be allowed to go about your workaday stuff if you wish to. And therefore, there were different minhagim in different communities about that. Mm-hmm. Those places which were machmir said, no, the whole day of the 14th of Nisan is a chag, and I'll treat it with, I shouldn't be doing my work. But in the afternoon already, it's heightened, and so you should close your shop. Goodbye. Right, don't take haircuts. That's actually, we discussed the halacha. Don't take haircuts in the afternoon on erev Pesach for these reasons. So that's the type of malacha we're talking about. And it's interesting that the people who work mamish until the last minute on erev Shabbos, and so there at least is an energy of the chachamim that says you're not going to see some in bracha. Stop already.
Well, it's too late for us.
Well, we mean the brachas have come or not come. You mean?
No. I mean, it depends how far you go back
and the work ethic that's required of us in the 2020, 2021.
Right. So certainly if you work for other people, so then you can, I'm not getting into I haven't looked up all the halachas about how we apply this and don't apply this, but it certainly means that a person should at least try to frame your time that you are getting into the mode. So in Israel, there is Shabbos has a different flow to it. It just does.
That's also because there's no Sunday's a work day, so they're treating
right. So Fridays is day off.
But also erev Pesach, I mean, we were done after Biur Chametz. That's it. It was literally Yom Tov at home. Like we had a big lunch. We had, that's what I asked about the lunch because we did have a big whoever came to the set already came for the big lunch.
Oh, that's sweet. Right. Mm-hmm. So there, I think there is a mentality and mindset that they're trying to help a person establish, like to get you in mode, and not that you're stealing your 18 minutes to blow dry your hair or whatever it's going to be. I used to blow dry my hair. I don't have to do it anymore. Right. And so it says already minha mincha. This should be in practice for erev Shabbos and on erev Pesach even earlier. So just all right. They didn't put an isser out. It's just a generalist losim and bracha. But erev Pesach minha mincha apparently it was. You shouldn't be. You should not be at work already minha mincha.
On Fridays by 3 p.m. we were done. That's it.
On Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay, there it is.
Get ready for Shabbat.
Make your phone calls. Call the people you love. Whatever it's going to be. All right, so we're going to stop here. Next week we'll dive further into this question about what was it that they could or couldn't eat, and how much did it relate to that mitzvah of matzah directly, and then we'll be able to look at the question about erev Pesach shechal yos b'Shabbos too. All right.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, everybody.
Take
care. Bye bye.